Hey guys, today's video, we're gonna talk about mobile bases. We're gonna talk about the commercially available ones and the ones you can build yourself. What's more economical for you and what's better? Well, I have my thoughts on this. I'm gonna show you how I built that and give you a rundown on both varieties. Let's go. Okay, let's talk mobile bases for a second. This one is a store-bought variety. You do, however, have to provide the plywood, all right, or the base that it's gonna sit on. They provide basically the four corners and the wheels and casters, and the price point, well, it could be anywhere from $70 up to $200 depending on the weight you need to carry. This one is actually pretty nice, and it moves my joiner around pretty well. The one thing I don't like about it, and I know this is personal preference, but fixed wheels. I'm not a big fan of fixed wheels. I like to be able to pivot all four corners of the machine and then lock all four corners if I need to. I get it, there's a convenience factor of, well, all you gotta do is just pull these up and you're locked and good to go. But honestly, I like it to spin. So that brings me to the one that we built today. This is my new bandsaw, and you can see here, it pivots on all four corners, and that's my personal preference. Now, yours could be different, but I'm gonna tell you the cons about this one as well. One is that you gotta go lock all the wheels whenever you're ready to use it. Not that big a deal because big tools on mobile bases are there for when you need to get behind them, move them around for a little while. It's not like you're gonna be taking them around the shop all the time. So my other thing I want to tell you about this one is that you got to be careful when you build something like this, not to build it too little, but not to build it too big either. You don't want the wheels, when they pivot inside, you don't want the center of gravity to be compromised when you're doing this. I'm going to show you how I built this one now and give you my final thoughts on really these things. Let's go. I'm going to start this project off by cutting a piece of Baltic birch plywood that's 5/8 in thickness. Now typically you don't want to cut a piece that is wider than it is long. You can see here I'm turning at 90 degrees, and the fact that I still got 22 inches of surface on the fence, I feel safe doing this cut. Now you can use whatever thickness you'd like. I'm just looking for a thickness of over an inch, and 5/8 of an inch doubled up gives me that result. After putting glue on the surface and doubling these pieces up, I'm going to now clamp them together on one side using these holdfasts. Then I'm going to tack in some 18 gauge brad nails. I'm going to move the holdfast over to the other side, giving ample clamping pressure, finishing it home with a whole bunch of nails, and of course that's going to be the bottom. Now it's time to bring in some locking swivel casters that are rated for 300 pounds each. So yes, they're going to hold this bandsaw with no problem. We install these just like this with some panhead screws and some washers, and another perk of joining up two pieces of plywood is that the piece is much thicker, giving more strength to screws that are going to be a little bit longer to install these casters. I actually love these casters. I have a drawer full of them. I bought them in bulk on Amazon, and yes, I will put a link down in the description. They are dual locking, as you see here, which means they lock the wheel and the pivot point at the same exact time, and those teeth allow all that to happen. Such good product. Check this out. Link is in the description. And like most projects that I do when I install casters, I like to get a little bit more lubrication to the bearings. I'm using a white lithium grease, but you can use whatever you want. Now it's time to put this beast on the mobile base all by myself. Oh boy, wish me luck. Here's just another example of how an Apple box is so handy around the shop. If you don't know what Apple boxes are, I actually did a video where I built 3 of them, a variety of sizes. I'm actually gonna link that in the description here because I could not have done this without having that thing at the ready. As you see, it went on pretty smoothly. All you do is pivot it up onto the box and then lift it up, bring the casters and the mobile base underneath, and you're good to go. So after cutting the 2 pieces down that are going to be the mobile base itself, I had this strip left over. I figured I would use this to fashion some sort of mechanism to keep the saw onto the base. Well, I needed 16 pieces at 1 1/4 inches, and look at that, it just worked out perfectly. So after a little bit of sanding, and let me talk about this just for a second. I see a lot of people who make French cleat walls and various shop projects with plywood, and they typically leave out the sanding part. And I think if you look here, the piece on the right, not sanded, the piece on the left is, it's your shop. And even these little details matter. And if you follow me on Instagram, I talk about this quite a bit. And I think it's one of those aspects of people's shops that really when you walk in, the cumulative effect of you taking the time to make everything as nice as possible really adds to the overall feel of your workspace. So you saw me draw a series of lines on these pieces, some a little bit closer together than others. Well, the reason is that they're spaced out is because I don't want these screws I'm about to install to be right on top of each other. I'm gonna bring these pieces to the corners of the bandsaw, and then I'm gonna just install some flush trim screws. Now you see how the bandsaw is tapered up a little bit by about 5 degrees. Well, instead of making a 5-degree cut on these pieces, I decided to make 2, and then when I layer them on top of each other, as you're gonna see here, check that layer out. That's what I'm talking about. That actually, all the way around the saw, is gonna hold it in place pretty nicely. With all 4 corners installed just like that, it's now time to dial this thing in. Took me a minute, but I would call that dead nuts. Now time to cut some wood. Okay, so let's talk about price and pros and cons, quite frankly. Okay, I misspoke in the beginning of the video. This thing was $60, but now it's $50 on Amazon. And these casters are 26 bucks. Essentially, you're buying the casters, the thing to move it around, all right? So there's a price difference there. Also, you do have to supply the wood for the commercially available one, and of course, you have to supply the wood for the one you're gonna make yourself. So in my estimation, it is more economical to buy this one, especially if you have the preferences that I do. You don't like the fixed wheels, you like everything to swivel, and you wanna make sure it's a little bit higher for you as well. Now, quite frankly, this was one of those projects where I got this bandsaw in, I was just gonna leave it somewhere. I thought, you know what, everything in the shop is mobile, why not build this? I even looked to order one, but they can get fairly expensive for, for a fairly heavy piece of machinery. I mean, you could spend up to $200 on a mobile base for something as well. So I think this is really the way to go, but that's just my opinion, and I wanna open it up to you and your thoughts on this. Have you made mobile bases in the past? Have they worked the entire time? Have they failed? What have you learned? I'm curious to know. And if you just buy these things, hey, more power to you. They're pretty convenient and they go together pretty easily as well. So that's this video complete, guys. I really appreciate you being here. My name's Chris. I'll give you a glimpse inside on another process here in the next couple weeks on who knows what. But I appreciate you being here. Appreciate you watching these videos all the way to the end. And yeah, thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Hey, still here? I'm super excited. This is the first time I've ever had the ability to do veneers. This was just a little piece of walnut, and now it can cover an entire table. I know that most woodworkers have done this, and it's, you know, probably commonplace to a lot of people, but I've been doing this woodworking thing for about 10 years, and it's the first time. It's so cool. I mean, a piece like this at your local, like, dealer or store is like $6.99. And this entire piece of walnut was like, I don't know, 12 bucks. Pretty cool.